Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are from watching around the world. My name is Karthik, and welcome to the Swami Army preview of the fourth test of the Pataudi Trophy between England and India from Manchester. Now, we have to apologise, we've been away for a couple of weeks. We've had some issues, but we're back, so we'll be previewing the fourth test tonight before it gets started underway very shortly. Joining us tonight, we have our usual suspect, Angad from the Swami Army. Angad, welcome to you.
Thanks, Karthik, having me on.
No worries, always a pleasure. And also, we have a special guest today from Infinity Cricket. In fact, the CEO of Infinity Cricket, doing wonderful things here in Australia and soon, hopefully, around the world. It's Nav. Welcome to you, Nav.
Thanks, Karthik. Always a pleasure to be on the show, mate.
Fantastic. And always our special guest all the way from England, live from Manchester right now, we have Gaurav Joshi, a freelance reporter and Swami Army.
Good morning. Well, good evening in Australia and good morning from England.
Fantastic. Well, it's a pleasure to have you all on, guys. We'll get straight to you, Gaurav, given that you're our man live in Manchester right now. What's it?
I missed your question, but I'm assuming you want an update. But I can tell you, as we're speaking, the covers have just been taken off, so the drizzle has stopped. So I think there's going to be inspection in about, say, 20 minutes time from now. And once that gets underway, you probably have to toss at 11. So we're probably looking at about a half an hour delayed probably this morning.
Fantastic. And what are we looking at in terms of the pitch? What's it going to be doing?
Well, I think it's probably the in terms of bounce and carry, it's going to be one of the hardest pitches on this tour. And the groundsman, I spoke to him yesterday, and he thinks it's the hardest that they've had this surface for the whole of the season. So it's going to have a lot of pace and carry. I'm not sure about spin. It's going to be very identical to the one against Australia last year. And if you have a look at, Grant Swan did get 5 wickets, but went for about 160 odd runs against Australia's batting order, which weren't that crash hot. And Lyon only took 1 wicket. India, of course, are likely to play 2 spinners. I think they will. So I'm not sure about, but I think that's the best sort of way to play on this pitch. At least India's fast bowlers can be rotated. And that's probably important, especially given the last 2 test matches are back-to-back.
Fantastic. And one final question before we let you go, as you press for time. The team selections, we hear that India will be making quite a few changes.
Yeah, I think there will be 3 changes. I think Shikhar Dhawan didn't quite have a session in the nets yesterday. Gautam Gambhir I think he will play. I think he went out to the middle of the pitch and visualised, batting from both ends. So I think that suggests that he will play. I think Ashwin's definitely in for, I think, Rohit Sharma. And third one, I think Varun Aaron just might get a game ahead of Pankaj Singh or Shami, but I just think it will be Pankaj who will be left out. So I think India, I think they'll make 3 changes.
Okay, before we let you go, a quick tip. Who do you think will be winning this test match?
With a lot of, bit of rain about, especially after, day 2, the weather's not that great. So I think it could be a draw, which might suit India because given that the oval pitch will just have a little bit more for the spinners. So I'm tipping a draw here in Manchester.
Fantastic. We'll let you go, Gaurav. I know you've got a lot of things to prepare for, so thanks very much for your time. And we'll chat to you again soon.
No problems. Thanks for having me on, mate.
All right, as we lose Gaurav, we've still got our 2 expert panelists here. Now, Angad, we heard from Gaurav there from Manchester that the team selection for Team India. Before we get to that, we'll just have a quick wrap of the last 2 tests since we haven't had a chance to do so. How have you seen it all play out? Both teams sitting at 1 apiece. India did really well to win their first test match overseas in a long time over there in the second test, and England came back very strongly with Alistair Cook setting the standard and leading the way.
Yeah, well, India did end up winning that test at Lord's. And it was credit to Ishant Sharma. He finally pulled out the performance that everyone had been expecting since that spell in Perth. In his second series in the Indian team. Although they did win at Lords, I don't think that India has picked. Sorry, I don't think the selections have been spot on throughout the series. And if Gaurav is correct on his changes for today's test, I still don't think it's the right balanced team, but only time will tell. But India kind of fell into their little trap that they usually do and got complacent after a win, and fielding standards dropped, batting standards dropped, and that's what really cost them the test, the third test. Cook back in form after being given an early life. If Jadeja had taken that catch, who knows how Pankaj Singh's first test would have ended up? Who knows how the test might have actually wrapped up? Cook taking a lot of confidence into the second innings, a lot of confidence into the rest of the batting lineup now that he's over that little form slump of his, and it's back to square one for both teams, and someone has to break the deadlock in this test.
Absolutely. And Nav, to you from an England perspective, how do you think it played out for them? Obviously, they would have been disappointed to lose the Lords Test match, but very happy to bounce back and level the series.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, India played an amazing Test match at Lords. I don't think a lot of people expected them to go out and put such a clinical performance. But I guess to England's credit, and to Cook's credit, the last Test match was all England. Alistair Cook was getting battered from the English press. He obviously had to come out there and make a statement. And quite frankly, the Indian bowlers let him. Played to Cook's strengths, and he's come away from that Test match with 2 scores. I mean, 95 obviously in the first innings, and a 70 not out. So. That's exactly what England would want. They'd want their skipper leading from the front and scoring the runs at the top of the order. But I guess what's also positives for England is their middle order. We've seen Gary Ballance, throughout the series piling on runs and piling on big runs. But it was, I guess, Ian Bell's innings of 167 in that first innings that really paved the way for England, taking control of the match. And as we've seen, the bowling is proving to be India's weakness. Whereas for England, Jimmy Anderson continues to fire. I mean, his 5-wicket haul was quite instrumental in ensuring that India didn't have a big enough total in the first innings. Ultimately, it paved the way for a 266 run loss for India. So, look, I think England are in a good headspace at the moment. They've obviously used all the off-field incidents to fire themselves up, and they'd be looking to, take a lead in the series coming into this 4th Test match.
Absolutely, and just on that, we'll move on to the 4th Test, which is happening, as we say. Live updates from Manchester are that the match has been delayed by rain. There will be an inspection in 15 minutes, and then hopefully the toss will be shortly thereafter. Now, Angad, to you, the selections, the team selections, we mentioned that Gaurav suggested there will be 3 changes for India. What about for the England team? Do you see them making any changes at all? Do they need to make any changes after their win in the second and third test?
I think they'll have to make the forced change to bring in Finn with that injury to. Sorry, his name just slipped off my head. So apart from that, I can't see England making a change. Moeen Ali's filled in quite well as a spinner. There was question marks going in ahead of the series with his bowling, whether it was good enough to trouble Indian batsmen, and with the 6 wickets in that last test, I think he's answered a lot of his critics. So I don't think England will be making any changes apart from that one forced one to bring Finn in.
Fair enough. And Nav, yourself, how do you see? We've obviously spoken a little bit about Team India and their selection changes. Do you think? Well, I mean, we obviously haven't got the confirmed selection of the team yet, but what do you see as the changes that need to be made for India if at all?
Look, I mean, probably the obvious one that a lot of people have been talking about is the form of Shekhar Dhawan. Look, I personally thought that his innings of 37 in the previous Test match, he was just starting to find a bit of touch. But I guess it's been 3 Test matches, and then the selectors might wish to change up the order, and in which case, I guess the obvious choice is to bring in Gautam Gambhir. But I guess the other thing that Gaurav did mention at the top of the show was the prospect of Rohit Sharma missing out. I mean, I think that might be a little bit of a questionable one. I feel that Rohit Sharma is a class player, and along with him and Rahane in the middle, look, if needs be, Pujara opening might even be something that India can think about. But I would actually leave Rohit Sharma in the team. Pankaj, well, unfortunate. He's obviously come out there, and I thought he was probably the pick of the bowlers, to be honest, in terms of getting the ball in the right areas. Unfortunate, he didn't get a wicket, and his figures were none for 205 for the Test match, which is completely unflattering. But look, I think what India wants to do is get Kumar, back to his full fitness. I would leave Rohit Sharma in there, and it's probably time for a bit of a change for Shekhar Dhawan just to get his mind right. And so, I don't have any issues with bringing Gautam Gambhir back for the last 2 Test matches.
Fair enough. Nevertheless, it'll definitely be interesting to see what Team India has to do with their selections. You would think that they would need to make a few changes in order to change their way of thinking and the way they play as well. Now, guys, before we wrap up, I'll get a quick tip from you of what you think will happen in this Test match. Who's going to win, and who do you think will be the standout player? I'll start with Angad.
I'm gonna stick with Gaurav in this one. I think with the weather around, we'll be seeing plenty of delays throughout the test, and I think it'll end in draw. Standout players might just be the comeback king in Gautam Gambhir. You never know. He might use this opportunity to re-establish himself as India's number 1 opening batsman, and for India's sake, I hope he does. Make some runs in this test and goes along the way to winning the series at the end of the Oval Test. So that's my pick.
Okay, so it's going to be a draw from Angad. Nav, how do you see this Test match playing out, and who do you think will be the standout?
Look, I think the weather's going to play a big part. So I think draw would be the safe option. But I think, if you look at the records, India have had a pretty average record at this venue. I mean, they've lost 3 matches. They've drawn 5, and they haven't really performed well. But having said that, when the backs are against the wall, India generally tend to perform well. Dhoni himself has a personal agenda at the moment to go out there, and obviously with everything that's been going off the field, I'm sure he'd be wanting to lead from the front and bring some sort of respectability to the Indian fans and spectators out there as well. So I'm sure he'd be firing up the boys and getting them to perform. So, look, if the weather pans out, and also in seaming conditions, Bhuvneshwar Kumar could be a handful, So I'm going to back India with this one.
That's exactly the reason why we get you on our show, because you support Team India hard, irrespective of what you do elsewhere. Fantastic, Nav. We love that, and we love you for that. Now, quickly, guys, in 2 words or less, who's winning the series from here? Angad, and give us a scoreline as well.
Who's winning the series, or did you say?
Yeah, with 2 matches to go, 1 apiece. Who's going to win the series from here?
I'm going to stick to what I said before the series started, 2-1 to India.
Fantastic. And Nav?
I would love to say 2-1 to India, Karthik, but I reckon, look, if India can win this game, then the fifth test is going to be really interesting. It could go to anyone. So I'm not willing to lock in a name at this point in time. Let's get through the 4th test.
That wasn't my question, mate. We need a response from you. We need a winner or loser.
You're putting me in a tight corner, mate. So look, I'm going to back India all the way here, mate. So let's knock this off. If we do get a result in this game, then what better way than to celebrate our first win in England, on English soil. So I think it'll be good.
So a scoreline in India 2-1 or 3-1?
I'm going to stick with 2-1.
Fantastic. Okay. That's all we have time for, guys. Thanks very much for Angad and Nav for joining tonight. As we said, and also Gaurav, of course, from Manchester. As we said, the last update is that there will be a pitch inspection in around 5 minutes, and then the toss thereafter. Hopefully, the rain stays away. The covers are off, so we should be able to get play starting very, very shortly. And hopefully, Team India bounce back after the third test loss and do really well, and hopefully go on to win this test match and then go one more and win the series. And hopefully finish it off 3-1. That's my tip. I did say 4-0 at the start, but given we lost one, I'm now changing it to 3-1.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
As you all know, I am the eternal optimist, so if we can't win 3-0, I'll happily take 3-1. That's all we have time for, guys. As I said, once again, thanks, Nav and Angad, for joining tonight. Thanks, everyone, for watching, wherever you are around the world. We'll be back at the end of this test match to sum it all up, hopefully after a victory for Team India, and then look forward to the 5th and final test of the Pataudi Trophy. Enjoy the test match, and we'll all see you soon.
Thanks, guys.